Good day. Welcome to Common Sense with Tom Schmitz. I hope everyone's Friday is getting off to a great start. Mine did. I'm so excited for my town and community today. As I was driving in today, I was observing the mass amount of construction that's underway around our city as I was driving in, and it reminded me of what Mr. Britt told me when I was a young kid. Mr. Britt now was a man who was a construction contractor. He lived next door to me when I was a young kid in Jacksonville, and we were experiencing the recession in 1979. And Mr. Britt told me, son, during lean times, construction is the last to be hit because jobs are booked so far in advance. But construction's also the last to recover. So it looks like from the construction going around in Ocala, we're well on our way to recovery. I do need to let you know out there in the audience that the views expressed on this show are those of the host and guest only, and in no way represent the thoughts or words of the CEP, the Power Plant Business Incubator, the City of Ocala, or Marion County. Coming up today, our guest will be Anthony James, the General Manager of Homewood Suites and former candidate for County Commission District 5. But first, While You Were Sleeping. While You Were Sleeping is brought to you by the Riley Arts Center of Ocala, the premier performing arts center in our area for concerts, dance events, and comedy events. The Riley has something for everyone. Visit them at RileyArtCenter.com for an up-to-the-moment calendar of events. A man was fatally shot during an armed confrontation with police at a hotel in Ocala Thursday. Authorities did not immediately release the name of the man who was killed. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement is investigating the shooting, which occurred at the Holiday Inn Express on South Pine Avenue. Ocala Police Department officials says it was an armed confrontation between multiple police officers and the man, which resulted in the man being killed. No police officer was injured. People on the scene say they believe the man was shot by police after he threatened to kill himself with a gun. OPD's website shows officers were called to the hotel at a little after 1 p.m. in response to a suicide threat. The medical examiner's van arrived shortly after 4 p.m. Hotel guest Anthony Maldonado said he was sleeping in his room on the second floor when he heard 6 or more shots around 1:30. He said he jumped out of bed, looked through the peephole of his door, and saw officers everywhere. He said he stepped out of the run and then saw a police officer in tears saying, "I killed him. I killed him." Laura Ferrari of Ocala said a friend of hers called police because one of their friends was inside the hotel threatening to shoot himself in the head. We'll continue to follow this story and to give you any updates that may develop. Now, I'd like to welcome in my guest. He is the general manager of Homewood Suites here in Ocala and also a former candidate for District 5 of the Marion County Commission, Anthony James. Anthony, good morning to you.
Morning.
It's been a while since we've talked. Last time we talked, I think I saw you morning when you were doing your radio show at WOCA, when I used to be on the radio at WOCA.
Yes.
Let's talk for a minute about the process of running for office in this county. You are one in a predominantly Caucasian county. You're an African-American man running for office, but you are unique in respect to what most people would think of the African-American community. You're a card-toting Republican.
Absolutely.
How was the process for you? Was it a good process?
It was. I went into this, blind. I just kind of responded. But everything along the way, especially the hiccups, the bad things, the crazy things, the sleepless nights, I've learned a whole lot. I learned more about my county. I learned more about our city. I learned more about our people, but I learned a whole heck of a lot about myself. So it was a fun thing. That was a small part of it. You can't stop. You have to continue to progress.
So even though it was not a successful run for you, Michelle Stone won the seat, and it was our first guest on this show. She won the seat. It is something that got you the taste of community help in you, and now you're going to continue. Just because you didn't win the seat doesn't mean you're going to stop trying to promote the community.
Absolutely, and before that, back even when I moved to Ocala back in 2011. my community outreach started. I started with the Vets Helping Vets, which I still do today.
Hank and his guys do a great job.
Oh, they do a wonderful job. I love those guys over there. But my father is retired Air Force, so that's always been in my heart to do. And more about like my campaign. My whole campaign was built around children. So even before this, I would hold teachers' breakfasts, to appreciate the teachers, and also I would read at schools, which I'm still continuing starting again next month. But the kids, helping helping cultivate them and grow them up in a society right now that it's very tough. It's very, very tough for the kids. And so that's my biggest thing, is to try to continue to move and prosper and do things and continue in the community to raise up our young folks.
Now, my best friend all my life passed away from a aortic burst when he was 47 years old, African-American man with high blood pressure. We know that it's something that is part of the African-American community. He lived in a predominantly white world. We lived in an affluent part of Atlanta when we were in high school. He lived in a predominantly white world, married a white woman, and he would try to go back into his community, the African-American community, and he was shunned because he was a Republican. He was a little country. He had a white wife. Did you find when you were running this time, did the black community accept you as a candidate, or were you shunned because you were a Republican? And Donald Trump is a Republican.
Yes. Actually, when some accepted me, the majority did not. But that's okay. I used to be a Democrat, but because of my faith and because of the world and being in the business world and finding out and how things actually work, living a Republican conservative life is the best thing. So that's how I raise my family, and that's how I choose to do business. But yeah, I was not accepted, only by a few that understood where I was going with it, but a lot didn't. But a lot of it really happened when I said the the Pledge of Allegiance at the Donald Trump rally. I got a lot of hate mail. I got a lot of things, but after all this happened, I started going out into that community, and lo and behold, I'm starting to make some traction. People are starting to understand. You're not going to get a whole lot of people that are my color to understand that day. But through time and through process and through how things are going, I think it's going to happen, especially in this county, because a lot of people are seeing this county, you know what? You can be African American and you can make it. So that's my whole thing, to try to be that front person that shows, yeah, you know what? Being African American and being conservative, you can make that.
How important is it for you as an African American gentleman to get the message out to the African American community? Because I know you believe this. We've talked about this before, you and I, that the welfare system in this country is a system that makes them dependent and not independent. Right. How are you getting that message out to the African American community, and are they understanding that the welfare system, the way it's designed, the way the Democratic Party right now who pushes the system, the way it is designed, it makes dependence of the government, not independent people who can succeed? How are you able to are people accepting that message?
Here's what I've found out, and here's what I've known, and here's where it comes to part. There are African Americans on the system. There are, especially in low-income areas. But there are a lot of African Americans that understand that they don't want the system.
Right.
A lot of African Americans don't want the system, but it's just I don't want to say it's a stereotype.
The system is designed.
It's designed.
Even if you don't want to be on the system, it's impossible to get off.
Exactly. So what the education and what we're trying to do now is show the oppression part of the welfare system. What it does is that it keeps you at a certain level. My dad told me, I always go to my dad for advice, and I asked my dad about the welfare system. And I said, Dad, can you explain to me, because his views are different on it. I said, Dad, can you explain to me why we as a people, as an African American people, are on this. And he goes, well, let me tell you. He says, when I was in the Air Force, I got out of the Air Force, I could not find a job. He said, so, we were actually on welfare for about 5 months until I found a job. And he said, but that's what the system is supposed to be designed for, to help people.
It's supposed to help you in the lean times to get back on your feet.
Right. And so he says, what was happening a lot back then in the early 80s was that men would go, okay, or men and women would go, and the first question they would say is, well, does the husband or does the father still live in the home with them? And they would say, well, of course, this is why. They did not get enough money to feed their families, so you had a lot of men leaving their families, leaving the homes, because they needed their children to eat. So if you think about a system that was bad back then, why do you think the same mentality is the way it is today? But here it is. What my education and what my thing is that we don't have to do that anymore. Under a conservative republic, under a conservative leadership, there's going to be more jobs, more higher paying jobs that will get you off of the system and get you more independent of your own self. That is the hardest part to try to get across. But through a lot of continuing education, because a lot of people are listening. A lot of people didn't even know this. A lot of African Americans didn't even know that they could do this or they could do that because of a democratic society.
They've been told the whole time, stay on the system, get your earned income credit for your children. Don't go to work, because if you go to work, you're going to lose your Medicaid. You're going to lose your food stamps. So don't go to work, and we'll take care of you.
Right.
Now, that's the democratic way. We know that, both of us. Now, with that being said, is there a chance that we can use the lesson of the last 8 years? And I don't mean the last 8 years of how things have run. I mean the last 8 years an African American has been the leader of the free world. Is there a chance we can use Barack Obama, the President of the United States, and show, see, through education, through hard work and dedication, you can also, as an African American, ascend to the highest spot in the world in government? Because to me, the most important governmental position to be held on the face of the planet, for government's sake, is the leader of the free world, the President of the United States.
Absolutely.
Is that a teaching tool? Can we use, is there going to be people who use Barack Obama as a teaching moment, saying, see, we can achieve if we put our mind to it in our community?
Right. Absolutely. And that's why now you still have a lot more African Americans that are more now business minded to try to do their own thing. You have a lot of actually African American owned business here in Marion County. But what's happening is that they're coming off the ground with it. But here's my thing. The President of the United States, you could ascend to be that. What you need to start seeing is local African Americans in government to allow you to say, it's because it's stepping stones. It's stepping stones of how you get there. How does a kid that is, they say projects around here, you're not from bigger cities. These are not. These are not projects.
These are government housing.
Yes, these are not like what you, exactly.
You go to Jacksonville around 8th Street and Jesse Street, and you see 12 and 14-story buildings, and 12 or 15 of them in the complex. That's a project.
Exactly. We're Southeast D.C., Spingarn High School, and all that. That's a project.
Techwood Homes in Atlanta. That's a project.
Exactly. Here, we don't have that, and thank God that we don't have that here.
But Busby Quarters and all are still,
you still have
it's still some problem areas.
Right, you still have that. But what's happening is that you can tell a child, an 8-year-old in a place that lives like that, you could be the President of the United States. You can, but let's do steps. Have you seen any African Americans at a local government leadership here?
Mary Sue Rich is the only one.
Right. Have you seen African Americans here in a professional role or as a leader of an actual company or business here in Marion County? That's my thing. I want to at least try to give them these types of things to go after. I got transferred here from D.C., to run this hotel. My hotel has grown, and it's grown very good. For for me, because I'm a Christian guy, thank God for all He's done for me and His favor, but also my mind know-how of how to work to get guests in. Now my hotel is flourishing. So I want to be able to give back tools, skill, teachings, know-how of how to do this, but also that's why it's imperative for me to continue to run for office, so people said, don't give up, and that's the fight. Don't give up, continue to fight.
Is it imperative that successful African Americans go back into the African American neighborhoods and show the African American youth that blacks can be successful? Because I do a lot of volunteer work. I volunteer with Catherine and Calvin Jones at the Skill Day Center.
Yeah.
They see a successful white man.
Right.
They see success. Kent Gwynn goes there quite a bit.
Right.
A successful white man.
Right.
How imperative is it that they also have to see successful African American men and women to know that not only white people can succeed, but they can as well?
Right. Well, I would say 10 to 20 years ago, it was very, very imperative that they see that. Now they see others, other people, TV personalities and things like that. It is very, very imperative now, because some of those things are not attainable. This is.
Yeah, because
Being
right
a general
now,
manager is attainable
right now,
for you.
Jay-Z and Beyonce isn't attainable for everybody.
Exactly.
Being Cam Newton isn't attainable for everybody.
Exactly.
LeBron James isn't attainable for everybody.
Exactly. So that's why it is very imperative, and I think it's critical. I'll use the word critical, that we as African American leaders go back into those neighborhoods and use still the same term. Don't give a hand out, but give a hand up. Let me show you where I came from. We have to be very, very transparent in this. I grew up, I don't mind telling people my parents were on welfare for 6 months because they had to have it. I didn't go to college, I didn't have a college degree. But
If
my
it had
God,
been for football, I wouldn't have had a college
yeah,
degree.
and I played ball and things like that. But it's imperative that you work hard. I have to tell people what I've gone through. How can you lead a people out of poverty if you've never been in poverty? How can you lead a people into a situation to work through a whole lot of things if you've never had to work through those things? It's very imperative, because if you're an African American, most likely your fight was tough. But you cannot just go in and say, all you have to do this, all you have to do is this. No, you have to tell these kids out there it's going to be a fight. I'm not talking about a fight as in the I can't stand the whole thing where it's this whole thing of, you can't do that, the white man won't let you do this. That's not true. Because I can tell you right now, as a man without a college degree, I run multi-million-dollar hotels. And it's not because of my college education, it's because you can do it if you work hard.
Hard work and perseverance.
Right. That's why I can't stop running. That's why I can't stop doing things in this community. That's why I cannot stop being a leader. Because once you do that, you set the precedence that it's okay to go after it one time, but not any other.
Now, when I was a kid, what you're describing right there, when we were kids growing up, the gentlemen around us, and I grew up in an impoverished area of Jacksonville, Florida. I grew up on the east side of Jacksonville, Florida, and I tell people all the time, we didn't know color. Right. There was Hispanics, blacks, and whites living there. The only color we knew was green because we didn't have it.
Right.
Exactly. We knew government cheese boxes and peanut butter and jelly, but we didn't know money because we didn't have money.
Yeah.
So what we were told was you always got to hustle.
Yes.
And that's what you mean. And you don't mean, it's not in a now people say, oh, you're talking about a criminal element. No, it didn't mean that back then.
Right.
What it meant when you had to hustle was you had to do whatever it took legally to make that dollar and pay your own way.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about here. So let's talk about making the dollar. Homewood Suites, located behind the racetrack, I think?
Yeah, we're there right beside Dillard's.
Right beside Dillard's, Heathbrook Commons. Now, you've been there since 2011.
2011,
So you know something about the hotels in our area and the bed tax and everything. The bed tax was recently increased. County Commission, one of the things that the people that were in office in the last term, one of the things that they did that I actually applauded, and by the way, I didn't applaud too many damn things they did. Let's just be clear about that. I did tag them as the 5 idiots at McPherson. One of the things they did, though, was they raised the bed tax, which easily, here's how they did it. because you can raise it up. I think you can raise it up to 5% or 6% just by 3 out of the 5 commissioners saying, "Yay!" So they raised it up from 2%, which was at the lowest area in the state, up to I think it's at 5% now.
Yes, it's 5% right now.
5% right now. That bed tax goes into a fund to then bring in tourism to our area.
Right.
Now, when I talk about bringing in tourism, can that fund be used for things like the beautification of the entryways to our city and our county? Like, for instance, I tell this story all the time. I went to the SEC championship game this year. Cordele, Georgia, which is a black dot on a map. Cordele is an exit on 75.
Yeah.
Cordele is a little town in Georgia.
Yep.
But Cordele has hotels. And Cordele wants people to stop and use their hotels. So if you drive through Cordele, even though it's just one exit ramp, they got 3-4 hotels, a Waffle House on each side, or south and northbound entrance, because Georgia, that's how things are.
Right.
And people stop a lot in Cordele and use the hotels. Do you know why? Because they beautified the center and the sides of the exits where it says Cordele, Georgia, the gateway to South Georgia.
Right.
And they have beautiful signs and everything. And I called the Cordele City Hall, asked how much. They spent about $100,000 on that interstate. People say, $100,000, we don't want to spend that time. First off, the bed tax is not a tax that we as taxpayers are paying.
Exactly.
Unless you are hanging out in the hotels here.
Exactly.
Okay? People that are coming through pay that tax.
Right.
And right now, I as much as it pains me to say, I got good friends in the hotel business. You're one of them. I know a lot of people in the hotel business. The exits on our area are blighted.
Okay. Yeah.
When you pull off at 27, it does not look like a safe place to get a hotel at.
Right.
When you pull off at 40, it does not look like a safe place to get a hotel at. When you pull off at 200, now that looks like a safe place to get a hotel at.
Right.
But that does nothing to help the people on 40 and 27. Is there any movement or any thought that we need to do something with our gateways?
Well, and excuse me, I apologize. It's not 5%, it's 4%.
4%.
We raised it from 2 to 4. I was actually on the TDC at that time, and I was also a part of doing the study.
Tell people
for
what the TDC is.
This is the Tourist Development Council. This is where the hotels and the places like the bed breakfasts and all that, people that stay there, they pay taxes into the hotels, and we pay that to the county. So I know one of the big initiatives right before I left last year was the gateway signage. And I knew they were moving forward into that. I haven't heard anything in a little while, but I know that the jumping on and doing the gateway signage to have that gateway of beautifying certain things for the area, especially in the area, to come through here. I do know that was a integral part of why we raised those taxes. And I just because of the campaign and my hotel being busy, I have not really looked into it anymore after that. But it has been a part of their agenda over the last 7 to 8 months.
Good. So we're gonna try to make a better give people a better. And people say, well, what's it matter, Tom?
Oh, it matters.
Look here, I ran restaurants for a very long time. Do you know the 2 places that will get you in the most trouble in a restaurant? If your front door has trash and cigarette butts laying around it.
Oh, yeah.
And if your restroom's a mess.
Restrooms are bad.
You could have the dirtiest, nastiest kitchen in the world. But if your restrooms are clean and your front door area when people walk in is clean,
yes,
they would never question your kitchen.
Nope, they wouldn't.
Because their perception is this is a very clean restaurant.
Yes, absolutely.
I know that.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm talking about. Our front door is a dirty mess in Ocala, in my opinion. When you come into our front door, it's got trash all around it.
Right.
And we need to clean that up.
Right. Like I said, I know that was an initiative, and like I said, I believe they're working on that right now, but you're right, and that was part of it. We need to make, when you come through Marion County, I had 30 rooms of Clemson fans staying at my hotel, and the game was in Tampa.
Right.
Okay? People will stay here in Ocala to go to Tampa. It's a nice little stop-off point, and we have realized that that's why it's so important that this gateway signage and making our gateway beautiful is going to lead to more and more people stopping here. Okay?
Right, you're right. People don't think about Tampa and Orlando, Ocala being a stop off before they go there. 100 miles to Orlando, 110 miles to Tampa. It's an easy hour drive to Orlando, hour and 10 minutes to Orlando, easy hour and a half to Tampa. Ocala, that's why the state basketball tournament's here, because Ocala is the center of everything. It's easy to get to with 75, with 301. So,
and once we start to do that, we'll get more hotels, and I'm actually working on something now, but we'll get bigger hotels and things like that, because Ocala can be that center part as we go along, and we need to press forward to that, because especially government business, a lot of people, they have to pay the money to stay in Orlando. We can actually bring them here, but we have to continue to progress as we're doing right now. We need to continue on that, and we need to have a 10 and a 20-year plan for our county to do that. This is how we grow as a community. We'll never be Orlando.
No.
It'll never happen. I've heard people say, oh, we're trying to,
they didn't want to be. They turned Disney down.
Right, exactly. But they're saying now, oh, I don't want Ocala to be another Orlando. It will never be an Orlando.
But we need to not be slow Ocala.
We can get close to them paying our wages, and we could get close to that revenue being here in our county, and our people coming up, and the median income coming up through hard work and a plan. That's what I'm hoping our commissioner board for the next 10 to 20 years, we need a plan and move forward.
Anthony James, the general manager of Homewood Suites, former candidate for District 5 in Marion County. Anthony, last question.
Yes.
Did you get your fill, or will there be a chance that Anthony James' name will be seen on the ballot again someday?
Anthony James' name will be seen on a ballot, and you all will be hearing something. Trust me.
Now, you a county resident or you a city resident?
I'm a county resident.
You're a county resident.
I'm a county resident.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything as of right now, but it's been so great. Like I said, people will say, and I've heard this so much even before, that Marion County, they won't ever let a black in, they won't ever let a black do this. I'm here to prove that wrong. Because I think if you have a good head on your shoulders, you're genuine to the community, you're genuine to the people, and you're genuine to helping push this county forward, I believe that me being elected one day will help and show and bring people up.
Anthony James, we need more people like him in our community, in my opinion. Thanks Anthony, for being here.
Appreciate it.
Do it again soon.
Absolutely.
And now this day in history. This day in history is brought to you by KT Entertainment. For all your wedding reception, birthday party, or any type of private gathering that you need musical entertainment, KT Entertainment is your choice. Give them a call at 352-512-2611 or find them on the web at ktforfun.com. That's KT, the number 4, fun.com. On this day in history, in 1990, I'm getting ahead of myself. In Virginia, something Anthony James, who is from Virginia, will remember, Douglas Wilder, the first African-American elected governor of the United States, takes office. It's hard to believe the first elected governor of a state was 1990. Wow, folks. And just think, in 18 short years from then, a president of the United States was also elected from the African-American community. For my guest, Anthony James, and for Ryan Mace behind the scenes pushing all the right buttons, I'm Tom Schmitz. Have a good weekend.